Post-training notice. National First-Class Registered Exorcist. Extra Chapter. A Thunderous Basket, Part 4. Bai Pi rose up from the ground, covered in iron armor, black flames emanating from its eyes. It fought fiercely against the grey wolf, causing the beasts to flee. Bai Pi vigorously threw the grey wolf flying, straight into a huge rock, which immediately shattered into powder. The grey wolf slammed into Bai Pi, throwing it up and flying, causing him to fall into the ravine. Immediately after, Bai Pi transformed into black and white flame, forming a tornado, while the grey wolf exploded and transformed into starlight. In the scene of the annual solar eclipse, the ring of light formed by the sun instantly emitted tens of millions of solar rays, showcasing its mighty power on the earth. Starlight combined in the sky, creating Kita's human form. He stood tall and overlapped with the eclipse, a pair of wolf eyes appearing behind him, facing the reformed white bear. He separated his hands, his left palm facing down while his right palm faced up, punching and forming a circle, drawing the powerful force of the eclipse towards Bai Pi. Bai Pi opened its arms and let out a bloody roar, the black and white fur now instantly turning into a chaotic gray. A powerful and turbid force erupted from its mouth. Kita! Zhiziaduo roared. The two opposing energies formed a powerful shockwave that instantly shattered the entire mountain, shaking the earth and causing thousands of beasts to flee. The azure dragon carried Zhiziaduo to the ground and circled around the periphery. We must stop them. Xiang Cheng's voice said. No. No. Zhiziaduo trembled and said, wait a little longer. Maybe we can win. Zhiziaduo instantly figured out Kita's plan. This was his true arrangement. Kita was too smart. Bai Pi used the power of the primordial chaos created through the fusion of yin and yang, but what Kita used was also the power of the primordial chaos. One black and one white, the yin and yang that formed the Taiji. And when the sun rose and the moon set, the sun and the moon were also yin and yang. Kita summoned a group of wolves to watch the moon, and at noon, used the technique of the celestial dog eating the sun to fight against Bai Pi, using the overlapping of the sun and the moon to create chaos. The two forces of primordial chaos destroyed the entire forest, and a grey mist surged up. On the ground, a white figure was galloping. Fengli! Zhiziaduo shouted loudly. You can't do this, said Fengli's voice. You can't bear the power of chaos, you'll die. Kita could no longer hear Fengli's voice, and his whole body had turned into a grey patch in the flames of the eclipse, emitting a swirling mist. Give it to me, Ba, Fengli whispered, you have done too much for me. I will die without regrets. A strong light shot into the battlefield between the grey wolf and Bai Pi, and then a strange monster rushed into battle. Fengli unleashed his powers of illusion to its extreme, with 9 tails gently spreading in the air, the fox tails spreading endlessly, for whistling and revealing mountains, rivers, and land. The 9-tailed celestial fox turned its head enchantingly, with a cold and sorrowful look in its eyes. It then opened its mouth and made every effort to breath out the neodon that had been cultivated for thousands of years. The clash of those two forces of chaos was opposed and intercepted in an instant, as the neodon suddenly sucked away all the power. Then a dazzling light burst out, and the recoil hit the white bear, who flew backwards and fell into the deep valley. Kita broke away from this uncontrollable force, instantly regained his sanity, and roared, Fengli! The neodon flashed in the air, and just as it was about to shatter, Kita pounced down and grabbed the stone, tightly gripping it with his hand. However, the power of chaos was too powerful, and it flooded into Kita's body, causing him to burst into dazzling brilliance. With a loud bang, Kita stood in the vast wilderness, flames scorching the earth. He looked around in confusion. The mountains collapsed, burying the distant sacred land in falling rocks. Fengli! Fengli! Kita shouted. He spread out his hand. Fengli's neodon was no longer in his palm. With a puzzled expression, he jumped up the mountain slope and looked into the distance. The sacred land was now completely conquered, and from afar came the mournful dying cry of the nine-tailed celestial fox. Kita transformed into the grey wolf and chased the fleeing army of the Yao tribes. The herd trampled on each other, and behind them, the exorcists charged over. A little silver-white fox was bitten by another black fox on its neck. Amidst the teeming battle, the two foxes were still fighting, and the black fox had the upper hand. It pressed the white fox under its claws, opened his mouth and roared, sucking in the innate Yao power of the white fox. The white fox struggled frantically, but it then subsided and its whole body twitched. Just as the black fox was about to devour all the Yao power of the white fox, with a loud roar, the grey wolf rushed in from the side, slapping the black fox flying with one claw, picking up the white fox, and turning around to escape. The surging torrent of birds and beasts submerged the plain, and the grey wolf strode away, disappearing into the sky. By a stream, the grey wolf placed the white fox in the water. The white fox coughed loudly and drank some water. It looked completely miserable and wet as it climbed onto the shore. The grey wolf stared at the white fox, and after a moment, turned around to look around, as if trying to distinguish whether this was an illusion or reality. The white fox looked into the water and saw the reflection of the grey wolf in the water. It suddenly felt a bit scared and afraid to turn around again. "Do you understand me?" the grey wolf asked in a deep voice. The white fox couldn't understand him, and turned to run away, vigilantly keeping an eye on the grey wolf. "Damn it, what is this place?" the grey wolf asked with a puzzled expression. "Is this your dream?" The white fox ran away, and the grey wolf chased after it, shouting, "Wait! Don't run around! You stubborn fox! Asterisk asterisk asterisk. Kita." Zhiziaduo's voice rang in the ears of the grey wolf, as he shouted, "The power of chaos is out of control, and it's changing Fengli's past. You must stop immediately." "I don't know how to stop it," roared the grey wolf. "I don't even know what happened." "Find him!" Zhiziaduo exclaimed anxiously. "This is not a dream. You need to find Fengli. Get him to control this power." The azure dragon circled over Bifeng Gorge, glowing with blue light all over as it enveloped the area inside the canyon. Zhiziaduo anxiously shouted from below. Fengli was very fragile, and the chaotic forces released by the white bear and Kita were almost uncontrollable and could collapse at any time. The grey wolf put all his energy into chasing after the direction that the white fox had run off to. In the region of primordial chaos, time seemed to be flowing backwards, with the past changing, revealing a strange five-colored light inside. "Can you keep it up?" Zhiziaduo shouted. The azure dragon didn't even have time to answer, twisting in circles while shining light down to maintain the dragon power barrier. The grey wolf was running around in the world of the past, and suddenly realizing that there had been a change in its surroundings. It was now a big road, with its end leading to an ancient city. The grey wolf couldn't recognize where it was, so he looked left and right and trotted towards the city. At the city gate, people almost poured out, holding wooden sticks and stones, chasing and attacking a ragged person. The grey wolf's eyes instantly contracted to slits, and he could see the figure of that person clearly. That was Fengli. Fengli had the head of a fox, and his cloak was torn off by the humans. He fled the city miserably, and under the siege of the humans, he boldly transformed into a fox and let out an angry roar, intending to rush forward to seek revenge. Then hundreds of guards rushed out of the city, arrows flying in one after another. "Shoot!" With a loud roar, the grey wolf rushed forward, grabbed the fox, turned, and ran away, the arrows behind him falling like a rainstorm. The fox struggled non-stop, but was bitten firmly by the grey wolf, unable to escape. After running for nearly 5 miles, the grey wolf released the fox. "What craziness are you trying to do?" the grey wolf roared. The fox hissed and rushed forward to bite the grey wolf's paw. The grey wolf bellowed in pain and couldn't help but shake its paw, and the fox turned and ran away. Wait. The grey wolf roared, don't run away. Listen to me. The grey wolf chased after him, and the surrounding scenery changed, revealing a small city. The grey wolf slammed to a halt, hid in an alley, transformed into human form, and looked around. In the alley was a courtyard, where a masked youth sat reading at a stone table. Hey, Kita's voice echoed from the courtyard wall. The young man was startled. Do you remember me? Kita asked. The young man was wearing a cloak, covering his face, only revealing his eyes, with some fur poking out. Kita waved and said, come here. Who are you? The young man asked. Who are you? Kita said, do you still remember your name? Kita showed an unrestrained smile to the young man and made a grabbing gesture at him. The young man breathed a sigh of relief and said, you're that wolf Fuyao. You remember me? Kita was a bit surprised. Of course, the young man replied, 700 years ago, the day I first came out into the world, you saved my life. Kita was very surprised, and the young man said, 300 years ago, outside Luoyang, you helped me. You also cultivated until you can transform into a person? What kind of wolf are you? What's your name? Come in, Ba. Kita swaggered into the courtyard. Is this the effect of the power of chaos? Kita looked around, somewhat puzzled. What are you talking about? The young man asked. Nothing, Kita said. My name is Gagantorura Kita. Gagantorura Kita. The young man said, that's a very unique name. It's from beyond the Great Wall. Having learned from the previous times, Kita dared not act too recklessly with Fengli, lest the cunning and suspicious fox run away again. It was on guard too much. The young man looked Kita up and down and asked, do you drink tea? Kita looked at him, and the young man went to pour him tea, saying, my name is Fengli. Feng as in complacent and stuck in the past, said the young man, and Li as in forced to wander and be constantly on the move. Kita said, Feng as in kept wholly intact, and Li as in inseparable from one another. Feng Li laughed and said, we really are fated. In such a big world, we have actually met 3 times in 700 years. How did you find me? As Kita was about to speak when the sound of talk and bells came from outside the courtyard. Feng Li suddenly turned pale, and the sky filled with wind and clouds. Countless runes crossed the fence, spinning at high speed, shooting towards the courtyard. Run! Kita grabbed Feng Li's hand. Demon! A deist cried, where else do you want to escape to? Instantly, flying swords rained down, and the sky and earth were filled with golden light. Kita transformed into the grey wolf and roared, hurry up and run! Feng Li's eyes showed a look of surprise, and they left through the back door of the courtyard. The grey wolf turned back and said, run! Immediately after, the grey wolf pushed over the courtyard wall and rushed towards the door. Are you still not done yet? Zhi Xiaoduo's voice said. The grey wolf overturned the deist priest, knocked down many houses along the way, and roared angrily, we're being chased right now. Stop nagging! Xiang Cheng's voice exclaimed, Bai Pi has come out now. Hurry up! The grey wolf roared, I actually really want to hurry up. How do I do that? Zhi Xiaoduo said, I see it growing a tail. Feng Li's power is awakening. It can control chaos. Let his 9 tails grow out, and he may wake up. What did you do just now? Why does he have an extra tail now? Bai Pi dragged up its injured body and limped towards the center of the altar. Kita was kneeling on the ground, holding Feng Li horizontally, and they were as still as if they were sculptures. Behind Feng Li, 6 huge tails appeared, and just as Bai Pi approached, a 7th appeared. Bai Pi raised its paw, moving to kill Feng Li and Kita both in one swipe. I understand now. The grey wolf shouted, these are the things in Feng Li's past that he's not reconciled with. It is his wish to change the past. Wait for me. I can protect him. The grey wolf escaped from the city, and time flew by. The surroundings darkened, and the sky and earth began to shake. Kita suddenly turned around and found himself on a ship. Fengli. Kita pushed open a door. On the bed, under a blanket, a figure was panting while being bumped around. Kita lifted the blanket, and Fengli was entirely naked. He had a fair body, but still a fox head, and he was completely startled. Gagantorura Kita. Fengli asked, completely confused. How did you get here? It's impossible. This is the middle of the Indian Ocean. Kita swallowed and said, do you want to put on your clothes first? Take me away, Fengli said. No matter where we're going, take me away. My Yao power has been sealed. Footsteps sounded outside, and Kita made a shushing gesture and dodged behind the door. A Westerner pushed open the cabin door and entered. Kita easily grabbed him by the collar and slammed him into the wall several times, causing the Westerner to fall unconscious and fall to the ground. You made my wife take off his clothes, Kita said. And you even want to make Laozi wear a green hat? As Kita spoke, he beat him up. Kita was standing 1.9 meters tall, and he held the 1.8-meter Westerner in his hand. He threw him around, and finally crumpled him into a ball and stuffed him under the table. Fengli. The sound of water echoed. Fengli was wrapped in bed sheets, and sitting on the side of the ship, while Kita carefully lowered a lifeboat. Kita rowed the boat while Fengli was on the other end of the small vessel. The moonlight shone on the calm sea, and the small boat swayed and raced away from the big boat. What did you just say? Fengli asked. Ah. Kita looked at Fengli foolishly. Fengli looked quietly at Kita. The surrounding environment began to change, and the sun rose. The power of causes and effects moved mountains and filled the sea, and Kita knew they were leaving again. I have to go now, Kita said. Don't go. Fengli said immediately. Kita. Fengli said, you. Where are you going? Fengli covered his face with a bed sheet, revealing his eyes and looked up at Kita. Hey, Kita said, what are you doing? Kita reached out and pulled off the cloth covering Fengli's face. He shifted so that he now had a wolf's head and grinned at him. Fengli. Fengli was startled and both of them burst into laughter. Can I give you a kiss? Kita asked. Fengli didn't answer, so Kita drew closer, and he rubbed his wolf nose against Fengli's face before finally licking him. Stop messing around. Fengli said. I'm leaving now, Kita said. See you in the next cycle. What? Fengli said in a daze. The ship docked, and Kita disappeared into the starry sky. How many tails are left? Kita exclaimed. 1. Zhiziaduo's voice spread from the sky. Kita ran towards the shore, the sky spun, and a vast expanse of white snow fell from the sky. In front of him was an endless snowy mountain, and a young man wearing a black windbreaker walked through the snow. The grey wolf followed suit, walking behind the young man. You are finally willing to appear now, the young man didn't turn his head back. The grey wolf snorted and didn't answer. You bastard. Fengli's voice said, do you know how long I've been waiting for you? The grey wolf froze, and Fengli turned around. The grey wolf shifted back into human form and immediately stepped back. Fengli rushed forward, and Kita was about to open his arms to embrace him, but Fengli punched him instead. Hey! Kita roared, I'm going to get angry now. I did so much for you, only to get punched in return. What kind of wolf are you? Fengli said, why do you always appear by my side? Kita suddenly threw a snowball at Fengli and ran away while laughing, ha ha ha. Fengli's face was covered in snow, and he spat out some flecks of snow. Kita once again lifted off Fengli's hood and unexpectedly discovered that he had a human face now. Yo, Kita said, you got your Yao power back. Fenli's eyes turned red, and he glared hatefully at Kita. Kita stuck his hands in his pockets. It was snowing heavily, and he was still wearing a shirt and shorts, so he was shivering in the cold. Fenli said, "Today, let's clarify the causes and consequences, Ba. Do you know I've been looking for you all these years? Have you already been in love with the Indian chief yet?" Kita asked. "How did you know?" Fenli said alertly. Kita thought for a moment and said, "If I pursue you, will you agree to be with me?" "I have a lot of things to do," Fenli replied. "I don't want to chat with you anymore." "Wait a minute," Kita said. "I'm so cold, and it's freezing and snowy. By leaving me here, aren't you murdering your husband?" "You." Fenli finally couldn't bear it anymore and shouted, "Where have you been all these years? Can't you be more serious?" "It's so cold," Kita just said, "so cold, so cold." Suddenly, Kita grabbed Fenli again. Fenli couldn't resist and was pulled into Kita's arms. Then, Kita lowered his head and kissed him. Kita thought to himself, "I finally get to kiss you, I've wanted to for a long time now." Fenli. In the next second, Fenli's ninth tail appeared, and he reached out his hand and covered Kita's left cheek. He opened his eyes in Kita's arms, and his Neodan shimmered, absorbing all the power of chaos and returning to his chest. In just a second, Fenli pushed away Kita, turned around and leaped out, transforming into a huge nine-tailed celestial fox. With its left eye as yin and right eye as yang, it fiercely swiped a paw at Bai Pi, pressing it to the ground. The nine-tailed celestial fox roared up to the sky, and the chaotic forces collapsed into a whirlpool, sweeping towards its body. Then, it lowered its head and sprayed a raging flame towards Bai Pi under its claws. Bai Pi roared in pain, and the eyes of the nine-tailed celestial fox erupted with flames. Bai Pi was imprisoned by the flames and rose into the air, struggling with all its might. Under the power of the nine-tailed celestial fox, it was pressed into the deep valley. "Sleep there for another 1,000 years." Fenli's voice roared angrily. The solar eclipse flared, gathered into a ring, and pressed against Bai Pi. Bai Pi was thrown into the deep valley, and the first seal of the solar eclipse suddenly fell upon him. The second seal of the Beast King appeared with the mark of the nine-tailed fox, accompanied by the altar pressing down towards Bai Pi. Immediately after that, the third seal came, and the fissures at Bifeng Gorge suddenly closed again. The azure dragon circled and flew forward, and a mouthful of dragon flames ran straight along the cracks in the ground, melting the rocks. Xiang Cheng returned to human form, made shapes of the seals with his hands, and said, "Seal." With a palm from Akalanatha, he shook the earth and heavens and pressed the seal onto the mountain. The pandas all cheered, lifting the unconscious Kita into the sky, and throwing him up 3 times. Zhiziaduo rushed forward and said, "No, no. Stop." The pandas all dispersed, and Kita fell to the ground. He woke up immediately and cried out while holding his back. "Who did that?" Kita roared fiercely. The pandas immediately all hid. "Are you okay?" Zhiziaduo asked anxiously. Kita waved his hand and sat on the ground, finally regaining consciousness. The nine-tailed celestial fox stood on the edge of the cliff, quietly gazing at the Bifeng Gorge at dusk. The grey wolf limped and walked in from behind, sitting behind it. "Hey, Fenli. The grey wolf, were the past events in the chaos because of you persistently changing things?" The nine-tailed celestial fox did not answer. The grey wolf said, "When you needed me the most, I didn't exist in this world yet. I'm very sorry for not being able to accompany you." The nine-tailed fox remained silent. "Sometimes I keep feeling that it would be good if we could redo our lives," the grey wolf said. "The most regrettable thing for me is that I didn't meet you when you were facing your most difficult moments." Fenli. The grey wolf lifted its paw and tried to touch the tail of the nine-tailed celestial fox. The nine-tailed celestial fox suddenly turned around, ran away very quickly, and disappeared. The grey wolf looked completely melancholy and looked at the direction it had disappeared to. ******. The next night, the sacred land. Zhi Xiaoduo lay among a group of pandas, chatting in the temple. Even if the pandas didn't speak and just snored away, Zhi Xiaoduo thought it was funny and laughed heartily while rubbing them. "This place is too boring, la," Zhi Xiaoduo said, "at least there's you guys." The pandas all said that they weren't bored, not bored at all. It was much bigger than a zoo. As Feng Li came by, the pandas kindly asked him if he wanted to eat some bamboo. Feng Li politely said, "No thank you." Zhi Xiaoduo said, "Are you looking for Kita?" Feng Li looked at Zhi Xiaoduo. Zhi Xiaoduo waved at him, and Feng Li came over to sit down. The two of them lay in the midst of a group of pandas, looking at the starry sky. "Did you already fall for Kita a long time ago?" Zhi Xiaoduo asked. "How could you tell?" Feng Li asked. "Because you like everything in his moments, Zhi Xiaoduo said. Feng Li. "You misunderstood." Feng Li said, "Liking things. It's just a matter of reciprocity." Zhi Xiaoduo said, "If you don't really like someone, you won't like every single thing. Occasionally, you may miss a few. Only when you care about someone will you always pay attention to their social media content and not miss liking every single thing." Feng Li, Zhi Xiaoduo said mysteriously, "The Ghost King told me something." "He also told me," Feng Li said. "It can be seen from this that no secret should be revealed to the Ghost King, otherwise that piece of information will quickly spread everywhere." Zhi Xiaoduo laughed heartily. "This is a skill issue," Zhi Xiaoduo said and shook his head, resting on the panda's stomach. It was really so soft and comfortable. ******. In the beast zone. Kita was wearing overalls and suspenders as usual, shirtless, and wearing a welding mask to weld a mailbox to the door of Feng Li's home. The summer night breeze blew, fireflies scattered, and the garden gate was pushed open with one hand. Feng Li entered. Kita took off the welding mask, threw it aside, tried the mailbox door a few times, and said, "You can receive letters now. Although we use email more now, I guess many Yaogwai still write love letters to you." "No one has written me a love letter before," Feng Li replied. "There will be some in the future," Kita said. "I heard Lang Dog say that you are his male god." Feng Li walked in, but Kita walked out, and the two of them were separated by a railing. Kita tested the railing and breathed a sigh of relief. With a celebratory voice, he said, "Everything is done now." Feng Li, "Thank you." Kita smiled at him and said, "You're welcome. I'm leaving now, and I wish you happiness." Kita. When Kita turned around, Feng Li stopped him by calling out to him. A panda secretly ran over, holding Zhi Xiaoduo's phone, and it hid behind the bushes. It reached out its paw and carefully pressed the phone screen a few times, looking up at Kita. Music started playing. "A fine frenzy's almost lover. Your fingertips across my skin." Feng Li. Kita. Feng Li, "What is this?" Kita didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and replied, "This is the background music that Xiaoduo is paying me back with. He's still the one who understands me the best." Feng Li looked quietly at Kita. "Don't you want to wait for the unveiling of the 10,000 Yao Hall?" Feng Li asked. "No," Kita said, "my task has already been completed." "Well, I'd never want to see you unhappy. I thought you'd want the same for me." "Gagantorura Kita," Feng Li suddenly said. "Feng Li," Kita said, "you don't have to say it, I know why you don't want to be with me. In those days, when you needed me the most, I couldn't be by your side. In the past, you endured everything alone. All the way until now, you have been very happy, and now no longer need someone to accompany you. Goodbye, my almost lover. Goodbye, my hopeless dream." Kita turned his head sideways and glanced at Fenli. Fenli seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he couldn't get the words out of his mouth. "Goodbye," Kita said. Fenli's gaze was complex, watching Kita as he left. "I'm trying not to think about you. Can't you just let me be?" Kita tidied up his things, and Xiaoduo poked his head out from behind the garden and glanced around. The panda respectfully picked up his phone and handed it back to him. "Hurry up and go," Xiaoduo whispered. Fenli stood in the garden, his eyes turning red. Xiaoduo said, "Hurry up and chase after him." Xiaoduo pulled at Fenli's hand to drag him over, but Kita shouted from below the temple, "Xiaoduo." Xiaoduo had to run over himself to calm Kita down. Kita put on a t-shirt, shouted a few times under the fence, and a pile of bamboo was thrown down. The panda poked its head out and said to Kita, "Do you want to eat it? Get the fuck out." Kita was really so annoyed by these nationally protected animals that like to act cute. Especially after being beaten all over by a giant panda Yao, he didn't even want to talk to pandas at all. "What are you doing?" Xiaoduo poked his head out from the platform on top of the temple. "Where's Xiang Cheng?" Kita asked. "I'm going to find him to go out for drinks." Xiaoduo replied, "He drove to pick up Chi-Chi and the immortal Chiao." Kita said, "Then you come down and keep me company while I drink." "I don't drink." Xiaoduo said, "Can't we get two pandas to come over and accompany you to drink?" Kita said, "No way. What was that song just now? Send it to me." Xiaoduo let out an N, and after thinking for a moment, Kita asked, "If we're not drinking, what do you want to do?" Xiaoduo replied, "I want to play a." Kita said, "Then let's go ba, I'll take you to an amusement park." Xiaoduo said, "Wait Xiang Cheng hasn't returned yet. Are you going to Happy Valley?" Kita said, "Let's go ba, who cares where Xiang Cheng is? Do you still love me or not? If you love me, follow me. I'll go buy the tickets." Xiaoduo scrolled through his phone and said, "Let's wait until Xiang Cheng gets back before we go." Kita could only then say, "Then I'll go first." Xiaoduo had to hold on to Kita, but Kita didn't want to stay in the sacred land at all. Xiaoduo had to call in reinforcements, so as Kita was leaving the sacred land, the Ghost King stood at the exit, playing with his drone. "Are you heading back?" asked the Ghost King. "Leaving now," Kita raised his hand. The Ghost King and Kita shook hands, saying goodbye. "Do you still want to get turned into a zombie and become a Death Knight?" the Ghost King asked. "No need," Kita replied. "Didn't you want to live forever?" the Ghost King asked. Kita said, "If you want to become a Death Knight, you also need to have the qualifications for that. Please help me say goodbye to the Kun Lord and the Eagle King. If we're fated to, we'll meet again." The Ghost King said, "Little brat." Kita was full of anger and wanted to go and fight the Ghost King, but the Ghost King ignored him and continued to play with his drone. He dodged Kita while holding the joystick and jogged away. Kita left the sacred land, drove to Chengdu, found a hotel to stay in, and called Chen Zhen to come drink with him, but everyone said that they weren't available. Kita was so angry. Heartbroken people couldn't get anyone to come over, so in the end, he could only call Xian Hezi. "Xian Hezi, come and drink with me at the bar ba." Kita said, "I'll buy you drinks." Xian Hezi said, "Great Immortal Xiang told me not to accompany you. He even gave me 2,000 yuan, if you give me 3,000, I'll come over." Kita said irritably, "What is he doing?" "I'll give you 4,000, come over ba." Huan Hezi said, "Wait a moment, I'll ask Great Immortal Xiang again. Maybe you'll have to give me 6,000 later." Kita said, "Xian Hezi, when I get back to Beijing, just you wait. Don't hang up." Xian Hezi said, 4,000 is 4,000, okay dash. As soon as Kita hung up, Zhi Xiaoduo called. "Weren't you going to take me to the amusement park?" Zhi Xiaoduo said, "Don't drink ah." Kita said, "All right then, come over ba. See you at the amusement park later," Zhi Xiaoduo said. Later. Kita said, running over to the amusement park in the middle of the night. "Are you playing at being a Diaxian ah?" Zhi Xiaoduo said, "It's only 8:30 right now. Xiang Cheng went to a few places this afternoon, and he's already booked the entire amusement park. He wants all of us to have a great time. Kita, I'm telling you, Zhi Xiaoduo, if you dare to bring any pandas with you, we won't be friends anymore. The car is downstairs at the hotel." Xiang Cheng's voice came from the phone and said, "Come here ba, everyone is here. I'll drink with you." Kita started laughing and said, "I just knew that all of you." Kita got up, put on a coat, and went out. The amusement park was completely dark. Kita glanced around, flew up and flipped over the main gate, and landed in the central square. In an instant, all the lights in the entire amusement park lit up, shining bright and colorful, like an illusion. The fountain was also colorful, flickering with dreamlike colors. Feng Li was wearing a black vest, with his dark hair drooping over his forehead, blocking his left eyebrow and eye. "I've been waiting for you for a long time," Feng Li said, bowing in a slightly restrained manner. "I'm very sorry, I'm not good at expressing myself." Kita walked forward. Feng Li seemed very uneasy. Zhi Xiaoduo and a group of pandas were cheering on Feng Li to the side. "Do you feel hot?" Kita said, "It's the middle of summer and yet you're wearing so much." Feng Li laughed, and Kita hooked his finger under the vest of his suit, unbuttoning the outside and placing the vest in his own hands. Next, Kita unbuttoned the first button at the collar of Feng Li's shirt. As he unbuttoned it, he lowered his head and looked into Feng Li's eyes. Feng Li's eyelashes quivered slightly. Kita reached out and hugged Feng Li's waist. Feng Li seemed to have stopped breathing, so Kita lowered his head, the bridge of his nose pressed against Feng Li's nose, and covered his lips with his own. Hurry up, hurry up." Zhi Xiaoduo gestured. The pandas lit the fireworks fuses, and fireworks flew all over the sky, illuminating the starry summer night. Kita hugged Feng Li, but neither of them looked up and focused on kissing under the fireworks. Fireworks ignited the sky, like blooming flowers in the heavenly veins. It was only for a moment, but it carried with it eternal power, frozen in endless time. Kita and Feng Li extra. A thunderous basket. End. Hey. Xian Hezi said, "Is it over? Is it over now? Finally, it's my turn, right?" At the restaurant next to the carousel, Chen Zhen, Qi Wei, the immortal Qiao, Chen Lang and Xian Hezi had all arrived. Xiang Cheng said, "They've left now, right?" Chen Zhen smiled and said, "He finally found true love. Come. Let's toast to Kita finding love." Xian Hezi said, "Cheers, cheers, this is too wasteful, using up so many fireworks. Where are they?" Zhi Xiaoduo was still looking around. Qi Wei smiled and said, "Here, look." Kita hugged Feng Li and sat behind the fountain, and they could only see their backs. Xian Hezi said, "Can we have fun now? Let's go, let's go. Let's start playing." So, the pandas and Xian Hezi were liberated together. The pandas went to ride the carousel, cheering as they went around and around. Xian Hezi sat on the pirate ship, laughing and saying, "I've always wanted to come here." Then he said to the panda next to him, "You should be worth a lot of money, right?" The pandas looked at Xian Hezi expressionlessly. "Xiaoduo." Xian Hezi said to Zhi Xiaoduo, "Can you give me one of your pandas?" Zhi Xiaoduo said, "If I find out they have lost even a single hair, wait until I find you." End chapter.